Chamber is understandably concerned about business vitality here in the community. Part of the business vitality equation is often described as workforce housing, housing for the people who actually work here in Palo Alto. Is it possible to provide workforce housing for the people who work in Palo Alto without compromising the quality of life here in Palo Alto? And if so, how? And yes, you have 1 minute to answer that question. So once again, the question is, can we provide workforce housing without compromising the quality of life here in Palo Alto? And if so, do you have any thoughts about how? Ms. Koo, you're first up.
First and foremost, the problem is that I don't think that we're obligated to provide housing for everybody in the region. I think this is a regional matter, and it does have to be expanded to everybody. And to answer the question about whether it is going to compromise our quality of life by having too much housing, I think that we can have housing, but it cannot be done in a way that is in a not thought out process. It does need to take into consideration all the cumulative impacts that comes along with overbuilding, just as what we have seen in the past decade with overbuilding of office space without taking into consideration the cumulative negative impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDougall, same question, and by the way, thank you for just powering through the chair noise earlier in the session.
I think that the city does have the opportunity to provide some level of housing for all ranges, not just the workforce, but we need to explore single bedroom housing. We need to explore studio housing. We need to explore below market rate and market rate housing, the whole range. But this is not just a question of housing, it's also a question of transportation. We need to look at ways that we can get people more comfortably in and out of the city without there being the congestion on the road. It's a very complex problem and not something you can easily answer in a minute, but does require a council that is considerate of all people and brings everybody into the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ely.
There are solutions to the housing problems in Palo Alto. Whether Palo Alto has the political will to do them is a different story. And I think what I would like to do, if elected to the council, is to explore solutions, realize that they will take time to implement and get done. But if we start now, in 10 years or so, I think we'll have a very good handle on it and be able to provide the housing that's necessary. But again, there are solutions to the problem, in my opinion.
Mr. Keller.
Thank you. So we can provide workforce housing for Palo Alto workers. The question is, can we provide workforce housing for all Palo Alto workers? And the answer is no. We can't provide it for everyone. We can increase our housing stock, and we need to think about what kind of housing stock we need. So it turns out that we have about 20% of our housing is now studios and one-bedrooms, but 60% of our households are 1 or 2 people. So clearly we need smaller units to match that, and that means small units for seniors, small units for young people. We also need family-oriented housing. But remember, in the first decade of this millennium, we built a lot of large housing units, 3, 4-bedroom townhouses, and that caused a wave of overcapacity demand in our schools. And therefore, we need to think carefully about the amount of large units that we build in order to make sure that our schools are not overtaxed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keller. Mr. Stone.
We should be able to add more housing, but let's be smart about our growth and not reckless. We have jobs housing imbalance of 3 to 1. Our daytime population doubles because we have so many workers coming into Palo Alto. We cannot possibly add enough housing to keep pace with that without destroying the very fabric of Palo Alto, overrunning our clogged streets. So let's look into other ways to address the problem. Let's put our housing near transit, near jobs. Let's get people out of their cars and walking on the streets or biking to work. and other creative solutions. Possibly looking into possibly partnering with the school district to see if we can find housing on school property for teachers or other employees of the school district. Other communities have been doing that, like Santa Clara. They're interesting ideas to look into to determine the viability of it working here in Palo Alto. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adrian Fine.
Thank you. So the key issue here is, as Mr. Stone mentioned, the jobs housing imbalance, where we have so many jobs here, people commute into Palo Alto and causes traffic and other environmental impacts on all of us. But I believe that we actually can begin to solve this issue. And the way we do that is by looking at housing models that work for folks of different ages, incomes, and circumstances. Palo Alto does have a model in the South Forest area where we used a coordinated area plan to figure out where we want to put housing and what amenities are needed there, whether it's affordable housing, child care facilities, transportation improvements. I believe that's a good model for the city to use in areas like University Avenue, California Avenue, and El Camino. We can bring the community together. All of you can work with staff, with the city, with local businesses, with the university, and our nearby cities to figure where and how much housing we need and what infrastructure we need to invest in to support it.
Thank you, Mr. Fine. And on to Stuart Carl.
We could have housed all of our employees if we hadn't spent the last decade building too much office. With a typical office worker now working in 75 square feet of office space, that creates a demand for 750 square feet of living space. We cannot possibly build that much living space in Palo Alto without compromising our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rhetoric.
I'm glad you mentioned the floor area for workers versus the amount of space it takes to house people. I think that we need to develop the courage and imagination to square up on this problem. I feel there's been more talk than action. I'm a former recipient of Section 238 aid from the federal government. Federal aid to housing has been reduced by 2/3 since the 1980s. It was almost 1% of GDP then, and now it's about 0.3. So we need to get some of those monies to succeed here, as municipalities all over the country need federal assistance. And that's why I remain always a peace candidate. Peace is a local issue. We need to bring money from the DOD into the HUD. I think we can do something significant at Buena Vista, but $30 million in public monies will demand a development, not just trailers. And I think we can do that too.
Thank you very much. Next.
Complicated question. I think what's very important is that we stay diverse in Palo Alto. I have a fear of someday just driving down the street and seeing nothing but houses that are multi-million-dollar houses. We have to provide something that's an alternative. We have young people who want to stay here. We have older people who would like to move out of their homes. This is really important. To have affordable housing, which comes up on a regular basis, you really do need government subsidy. And we have a number, close to 2,000 units available in Palo Alto that are below market rate. We need to concentrate more on that need for diversity. It's why we worked so hard with Joe Simidian to say Buena Vista. That is going to make a big difference. That's more than 400 people, including a number of kids. We need that kind of variety, and we need that kind of diversity in our community. Thank you.
Greg Tanaka will be the last candidate to speak on this topic. Mr. Tanaka.
Yeah, I think this is actually a very important question for Palo Alto, the community, even the surrounding region. And so I'm also founder and CEO of a company here in Palo Alto, local business on El Camino, near Barron Park. And as a business owner, I can tell you the challenge. So a lot of the people that work on my company are on the younger side. A lot of them have significant challenges finding housing here in Palo Alto. And as a business owner, it's very hard to operate without being able to have employees that you need to actually operate a business. And I think a lot of people here, actually a lot of residents want to have a vibrant retail where they can go shop and buy things. And without the staff to actually staff it, it's going to be very, very difficult. At the same same time, I was also president of my neighborhood association, the College Terrace Residents Association. So I have a good understanding of a lot of the views of homeowners here in Palo Alto. And getting community involved in trying to solve this problem is actually critically important. Because you need to go to both sides to really solve this question. And really, the key is to try to minimize the impacts through smaller units, to have multiple transportation modalities, as well as to make the infrastructure investments necessary to allow this to happen.
Thank you, Mr. Tanaka. All right. Now that we've solved the jobs, housing, workforce, and balance problem in less than 15 minutes, let's